Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to go ahead and begin. I apologize that it's taken a little longer than probably what we were thinking earlier. Let me begin by thanking each and every one of you for being here this evening. This is a great opportunity for a lot of folks in the community to get together, and it means a great deal that all of you have taken out your time here as we finally break into spring of Indiana, I hope, and to sit down and enjoy some community and some good times, all for a very good cause. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank my friend, exceptional performer, Gordon Brooks. Let's give Gordon a great hand. Excellent job. Could have let you go until midnight, but everybody probably got a little aggravated. But thank you very much. Again, thank you for being here. I'm going to sort of act a little bit as both your host and also a little bit of an MC this evening to some extent. So I'm going to ad-lib this a little bit. So I hope everything goes all right. We're here this evening. There's a lot of folks I want to thank here in a few moments, but I just want to remind everybody why we're here. When I first got elected, when I was running for office, it's not unusual when you're out on a campaign trail, people will tell you what's on their mind and so forth. And one of the things that people would talk about with regards to the community was they would talk about education. And of course, as most of all you know, that the mayor really doesn't have a direct involvement with education in terms of authority. But the reality is that education is extremely important to a community if you're going to continue to grow and do well and expand and have great opportunity for your citizens and for your children and the folks that wish to expand their education and do better and stick around and live here and so forth. So in some ways there's a disconnect that the law basically is that we don't have direct involvement, but the reality is we need to be involved. And so as I talk to folks, and myself being a product of the community schools here in Anderson and having grown up here, I knew how important it was. And so it made sense to me to try to use, I hate to use the word bully pulpit, but to use my ability as being fortunate enough and honored enough to be serving as your mayor, to be able to be in a position to at least discuss education, and particularly public education, and how important it is to our community, and work together with our educators and work together with others who have interest in education to help bring us into where we need to be with respect to education. So part of what I did when I came into office was I started looking at a lot of the opportunities that are going on in Anderson right now, and we're very, very fortunate in Anderson to have so much going on. We really, really are on the cutting edge right now of so many things. I mean, we are poised to do so much in the next several years. Anderson really is truly on the move. I can assure you that so many other communities that are of similar size wish they had going for them what we've got going for us. And so much of what we have going for us actually is because of the people, because of you, and because of our citizens. And so we are on the right track. But as we move on the right track, we need to bring some things together. And one of the things we need to bring together is we have this new expansion of new business coming in, and we have a lot of it right down the street here coming in with regards to, for example, NTN, the expansion of GTI. We have over by the former Guide property. We have Surmax. We have out by what now is going to be the Purdue Polytechnic area. Right beside it is going to be Italia Polina. So we have a lot going on, and there's a lot more that's going to be coming in the near future as well. So what's important is that we work together as in education to make sure that the students and that the folks that live here have the opportunities and the ability to go out and actually get one of those jobs if they want one. Because manufacturers want to hire local, but we have to make sure that we provide to them the quality employee for that purpose, and that requires some education. So what I've been doing in some of my time has been to talk with a number of our manufacturers. In fact, we're going to be having a meeting on, I believe it's the 13th of May, a manufacturers roundtable. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the importance of the manufacturers working with our educators. And then our educators, who I've also been meeting with, is that they will meet with the manufacturers and work together to make sure that their curriculums, in part, will give the needed educational tools that our folks need to be able to go out and get these jobs. So when I was in the middle of doing some of those things, I had the great opportunity to come here to this facility, Revive Tech, where, of course, this is a new facility. And I had a chance to tour it and see it, and I was extremely impressed, not just by the quality of the folks that were involved with the program here, but obviously with the physical facility. And so I wanted to, if able, I wanted to figure out a way to help make sure that the rest of the public understood what we had here. Because that's one of the things I find as the mayor of the city of Anderson. There's so many good things going on, but sometimes not everybody sees what it is. We don't always necessarily understand that. Even those of us that are in this room, all of you have a great deal to do with our community. You're in leadership positions, but even you maybe don't always know exactly what's happening. So it's important that we all have a clear vision of what we have available. That way we can spread the good word and help improve our image as we move forward, not only within our community, but on the outside of our community as well. So when I toured this, I realized what a great place this was, and I had the good fortune to meet with several of the administrators here. And in speaking with them, we eventually got together and they agreed to make this facility available to us this evening for this event. And it was so good of them to do that. So let's give Ivy Tech a big warm welcome. When this is over with, in the next few days, if you have a chance, definitely come out if you haven't seen the entire facility and see the rest of it. There's so much here. It's such a good thing. In doing this evening, as you know, in the past, the mayors have had so-called mayor's ball, and they've used it for different things. Everyone has sort of an idea of what seems to be important at the time. And of course, we've been concerned, all of us have, about, for example, downtown and making things look more beautiful and pretty and so forth. And I know in the past they've used some of their monies that they've raised for those purposes. However, again, I felt that it was important to try to address the issue of education. And so what we decided would be that this particular ball tonight would be used to reach out and raise funds, and the funds that we would net off of this, that we would put back into the public school system, particularly through K through 12. And what we're going to do is we're going to be in communication with the schools, and we're going to let them know how they can make an application, if you will, and the teachers, the schools can give us an idea of what they might be able to do with these funds, and then what we're going to do is divide them into a number of scholarships or grants that are just going to be funds made available to be able to carry out some projects. Because those of you who are in education know that just a little bit of extra help can go a really long way in doing some things in the classroom to help. And with the funding that we have today in public education, it's great to have some additional funds to do some things. So that's what we're going to do with this money. Before I go much further, let me take a moment just to recognize, and if I miss somebody, and I probably will, I apologize in advance, but you all have your programs here. And this is, first off, these programs were worked on up until almost the last minute. And I want to acknowledge Hoosier Press, who put these together, but particularly I'd like to acknowledge Michelle Froger. Michelle, and Mickey to her friends, worked tirelessly on this, and she did a great job, and she's in the audience tonight, but I just want to acknowledge her and all of the great work that she did on this. Again, obviously, Ivy Tech for all of their kindness and doing all the things they've done for us here. Again, they're showcased in here, and again, we appreciate everything they've done. Our primary sponsor of this was Community Hospital. Community Hospital has been a great partner with the City of Anderson from the time that I took office, and I can just tell you they've been nothing but great. And we have a number of great community and corporate sponsors, if you want to call them that. They're really not, they're more than that. They're friends, they're part of the community. It's exceptional what so many of these organizations do, but community has been nothing but first class. And you can see as you look around the facility here, you see some of their banners and many of the things that they do that goes far outside of what you typically think in terms of the medical profession. But they do so much to give back to the community, and they're giving back right now by being the primary sponsor here. And I just want to thank all the folks, Beth Tharp and the rest of the folks, Community Hospital, for so much what you've done. Thank you again so very much. I'd also like to acknowledge the Anderson Federation of Teachers. The Anderson Federation of Teachers is also a major sponsor here this evening, and Randy Harrison, the president, is here. And Randy, thank you so much. Today they had, in fact, Anderson was the host city for the AFT statewide convention. They had it out at Tanglewood, and I had a chance to speak out there early this morning. Randy had called me, he asked me a month and a half or so ago would I speak there, and I said of course I would, and I was happy to, and I did. And then last night he sent me a little text to remind me, hey, don't forget. And I said, I know. I said, now what time is that again? And I was thinking it was 8. He said, well, it's 9 o'clock. And I said, is it 8 or 9? He said, well, you can come early if you want, but if you want to eat a continental breakfast. Well, he doesn't understand that one thing I've learned as mayor is one thing you do a lot of is talk, and the second thing you do a lot of is eat. And I like to eat, so I said, I'll be there for breakfast. So anyway, I did, and I had a chance to speak. But it was nice to have the state organization come in and use Anderson for the facility. But it's particularly nicer to have you folks being a primary sponsor of what we're doing here tonight. Thank you again so very much. We also are fortunate, as you know, when I got into office, it had not been concluded yet, but it was still on the table, and some discussions were ongoing about whether or not the Colts would come back for our summer training camp again. And along with working closely with Anderson University and President John Pistol, we were able to get through an agreement with the Colts, and of course they're going to be back this summer, which we appreciate. And they're not just coming back, but they're also contributing to this tonight. And they are a primary sponsor as well, and we appreciate everything that they have done and thank them so much for their help. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank St. Vincent's Hospital, the hospital that I was born at when it was called St. John's. I still think of it as St. John's, but I'll tell you what, the folks there also are great, and Anderson is very fortunate to have 2 first-class hospitals in our community. And I want to thank the folks at St. Vincent's for all of their support and their help as well. As I said, we have several other sponsors that were heavily involved, and if you look in the program, just to kind of run through them quickly again, Hoosier Park, who is a great help, Flowers by Mary Jane, again, Purdue and Purdue Polytechnic, who by the way, is another serious component piece to this education that we have going on in Anderson. Again, I just want you to think that we have the Anderson Community School System, and I've been in contact and communication with Terry Thompson, who's here tonight as well. And Terry has been pretty sick recently, but he's recovered and he's come back. I told him this evening, I said, are you sure you haven't been playing hooky? But he looks great. But the reality is these folks in the community school system here work hard together, the administrators, the teachers. The kids are the #1 priority, and they all understand that. And so it's great to have those folks here. It's great to know that Purdue is taking a further step and bringing Purdue Polytechnic here. I had the occasion just the other evening to do the commencement speech at the Harrison College. And again, those folks graduated 51 students, and that was great. Anderson University, of course. Anderson University, who is also a sponsor this evening, have done so much. And in a few minutes, in addition to the money that we're raising here directly and that we're going to give away in these scholarships, in addition to that, Anderson University is going to be presenting 2 scholarships this evening to some students, and we'll be having them up here in a few minutes to do that. And in addition to that, Ivy Tech is also going to be granting scholarships to local students here in their school. And so again, that's being done through this activity, and we appreciate all that. That's over $3,500 of scholarships right there. So I'd like to thank them for that. Of course, we have Larry Peck Catering. Mr. Peck, the gentleman who has done this great catering and meal tonight, we thank them for all of their efforts. We'd like to thank Anderson Country Club, who's also contributed and helped us with a lot of the seating arrangements that we have here this evening. A lot of the table settings that you have here were provided by Seasons of the Heart and other local community. We've also had BF&S, Butler, Fairman, and Seifert, civil engineers, who've contributed as well. Witt's Carpet, who took care of our red carpet out front. That was kind of neat, so we all liked that. And let's see, I think I've covered the primary. If I missed somebody, I want to apologize. Clip Zone, Nicole's sitting over here with us. Thank you for Clip Zone. They always are great community partners in so many things that they do. I'd also like to acknowledge I came out here a couple times and moved a couple of chairs around. That was about what I did. There's a lot of people that, if not for their efforts, this wouldn't be going on tonight. I can assure you that. And again, Ivy Tech works so closely with us, and I need to acknowledge, and this young lady will be up here in a few minutes to assist with respect to the Ivy Tech scholarships, but Linda Alexander with Ivy Tech was great. Just worked herself to death. She didn't know she was getting into event planning when she came to work for Dr. Willie. And I'd like to thank Dr. Willie and the rest of his staff here at Ivy Tech for all they have done. All you guys have been exceptional, and thank you so very much. We've also, out of our own office, we had my public information officer, Alicia Cummings, was instrumental in getting so much this done, and many of you had contact with Alicia throughout. Thank you for her assistance. I'd like to also thank Stacy Johnson from our office, who worked so hard. I'd like to thank Julie Griswold for all of her efforts as well. Also like to thank Tammy Dixon Tatum, who was out here working hard, as well as Leila Kelly, who helped set up our wine pole and did a lot of other work as well. Thank her for that. I'd like to thank Cindy Lannon for all of her efforts in helping to put all this together. Also Shannon Waters, who worked with the rest of the team to help make this come off this evening. These folks have worked hard, and in addition to our own folks in our own office, we had also Michelle Hockwalt. I'd like to thank Michelle for everything. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Chancellor, Andy Brown, who's here, over here. We had a couple of things going on here. We were able to have a certain amount of tables available. But from the campus over in Muncie, they made additional tables available. And we thank you very much for allowing us to do that from the Muncie campus. For everyone that I didn't mention, I apologize. I'm sure there's others I missed. In fact, I could probably go through the room and each and every one of you has contributed to this event, or we wouldn't be here this evening doing all this. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for all of your efforts, and I would also bring your attention on page, I guess, 2 or 3 here. We have a long list of all of the other individuals and sponsors that haven't been noted and showcased throughout the facility who contributed greatly to the program tonight. And again, I just want to thank all of you. Again, what's critical, I think, and interesting about all this is how everyone has drawn together and come together for, again, this purpose. And this purpose, again, is to raise funds for our kids that are so very important here in our community. That's, again, what is the great strength of our community, is that we come together, we work together, you know, we set political stuff aside, we do this as a community. And that's what's important, and that's what's great about Anderson. And again, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I want to thank Anderson in particular for being such a great city.
Cheers.
What I'd like to do now is take the opportunity to call up to the microphone for a few moments to talk a little bit about Ivy Tech. And this gentleman is the president of Ivy Tech in the state of Indiana. Tom Snyder is a fellow that I've known for a long time. That doesn't mean that we're old. We're not. We're very young. If later on you'll see Tom out here dancing, you'll know he's very young. But I can tell you that he is one of the jewels of our community. I've been proud to know him for a number of years, and I was particularly proud when he was tapped to be president of the university. And from my viewpoint, but for Tom, we wouldn't even be standing in this building right now. And he has done an excellent job. So may I welcome to you and introduce to you Tom Snyder.
So there are a few, Lonnie Zarnicki on one side of the aisle. So Doris Snyder was his 4th grade teacher. Okay. So she taught a lot of people in town that are just exactly your age. Let me just introduce the team that's here. I do have a small confession to make. Okay, and that is, I went and I put this shirt on, it just came back from Best Way, and I realized it was a Don Trump formal shirt. So this tie leans directly to the right, so if you don't mind. So I have to keep adjusting it, so let's say that. So let me just introduce some of the people with us so you get to know us, because it's really important, and look and make sure I don't leave any. First, everybody knows Bobette. Bobette, so don't applaud here. Let me just introduce the team. Bobette, my daughter Rebecca, her friend Deputy Sheriff Joe Rodney, stand so you can see everybody. Becca, Bobette, okay. Yeah, right. Dr. Andy Bound and his wife Ruth, they're domiciled in Yorktown. They're responsible for 12,000 students in this region. Make sure everybody sees you, okay. Jim Willie and his wife Missy, okay. They're responsible, president of the Anderson campus. LaCoya Rochelle, her husband Bruce. LaCoya, okay, if you brought a check, just leave it blank and give her the check, okay? That's her responsibility. And Linda Alexander, who really runs the whole place. Where are you sitting? Linda, stand up. Right here, right there. Linda, right here, okay. And Linda and I worked together at General Motors for some time. So let me just say a word, and that is that we've gone through graduations this week. We're going to have maybe 2,000 graduates at Emmons on Thursday, and it's really critical. We're great partners with Anderson University. John Pistol was out here and talking about how we could start to recruit our 1- and 2-year certificate and graduates so that they go to Anderson University. It takes place every year. We transfer maybe as many as 30,000 students a year who start with us. You know, we're working great with Purdue Polytechnic. We went through the campus, met Gary Bertolini. What we have here is a jewel with this Purdue Polytechnic. We all have to work together. Terry Thompson has got maybe, you know, 500 dual credit students in high school right now who are enrolled at Ivy Tech, taking courses for free and getting ready to go on to college someplace, if not with us. Glenda Ritz and I have worked together for, you know, the last few years, making sure that students can find out if they're not college ready by the time they take the PSAT, what do they have to do in their, you know, junior and senior year. It's all a partnership. This is such a clever idea to get everybody together, and we had no idea, as we've been through it, how elegant would look when everybody is in their finest dress and the men are in these tuxedos that we've, you know, dug out of the closet, even if it's got a silly Donald Trump shirt on it. So, you know, we expect to have a wedding or a wedding reception in here in the future. We really appreciate you being here, and this is your building, all right? This is your building. Community College has a statewide brand, but this campus belongs to you. We're glad to hear it. God bless you.
Thank you, Tom. I certainly appreciate those words. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and call up folks from Ivy Tech who would like to make the presentation of the scholarship this evening.
Well, good evening. My name is Andy Bown, and I have the distinct privilege and honor of serving as the Chancellor of the East Central and Richmond region. It is a blessing for us. I came here 3.5 years ago at the invitation of President Snyder, and let's just give Tom another round. I say this often. We lived in Yorktown, but Anderson, in so many ways, is our home. You have made Ruth and I feel so comfortable and feel so engaged in this community, and it's a thrill for us to be able to celebrate tonight. So, Mayor, it is our privilege tonight to recognize a couple of students, and we're going to start out with a young man, 19 years old. His name is Rodrigo Santiago, and he's a full-time employee at General Motors in Fort Wayne. And he's also majoring in general studies. He chose to attend Ivy Tech based on the affordability that we offer students and the flexible schedules that allowed him to go to school as a part-time student and work full-time. I had some time to spend with him this evening, and he is all that Ivy Tech is. He is bright. He's hardworking. He balances life and school and so many other things. And he does all that. And he has a 3.7, actually 3.78 he shared with me tonight, grade point average. Let me just say I did not. So I really admire all that Rodrigo does. After receiving his general studies degree, he plans to transfer to a 4-year institution where he wants to major in a program that allows him to see others succeed in life. Would you please join me in recognizing our great student, Rodrigo Santiago. Rodrigo, we have a scholarship here in the amount of $1,000, which goes a long ways at Ivy Tech. Yes. Rodrigo, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Willie?
Good evening. My name is Jim Willie. I am honored to be the president of the Anderson campus here at Ivy Tech. And I have the distinct pleasure of recognizing our scholarship recipient, Mackenzie Stanley. She's a 2014 graduate of Anderson High School, and she is now majoring in human services. And she will complete that December of 2016. She also chose to attend Ivy Tech based on the affordability, but also our class size, and she has plans to transfer to a four-year institution so she can complete her bachelor's degree in social work. She has a true passion to help abused children as well as working with adults that are mentally challenged. However, Mackenzie, like 65% of our students, work, and she was not able to be here tonight, but she sends her regards and is elated to receive this $1,000 scholarship towards her tuition. So let's give Mackenzie, even though she's not here, a round of applause.
Well, congratulations to those students for all their hard work and efforts, and sounds like that is very much well deserved, so congratulations again. This time I'd like to call up, I don't know if Stephanie Moran, here's Stephanie. I'd like to call up Stephanie Moran from Anderson University, who likewise has some scholarships from AU. Stephanie? Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you to you, Mayor, for your commitment to education and really seeing the value in that and creating this evening to support that. President Pistol would have loved to have been here tonight and sends his regrets, but he is finishing a full day of commencement exercises at Anderson University. But I do have the privilege for over almost 100 years, Anderson University has been partnering with the City of Anderson to really support many various initiatives to support the success of the citizens here in Anderson. So tonight is not much different, but it's especially nice because we're celebrating student success. So tonight, Anderson University has the honor and the privilege to give two $1,000 scholarships to Anderson High School graduates who plan on attending Anderson University this fall. So I hope that you will just help me celebrate these two students. The first is Everardo Rodriguez. And Everardo, come on up, Evie, is what his friends call him. Ah, you're going to get a standing ovation. Let me tell you just a little bit about Eve. He's a student athlete, and so not only does he excel in leadership, Honor Society, Student Council. He's also been the captain of his very successful soccer team for the last 2 years. But it's students like Eve that just continue to remind us how fortunate we are at Anderson High School to graduate such wonderful young people. We look forward to seeing what you do at AU. You're going to be awesome. Thank you. And then next, I invite you to help me celebrate Brittany Bargo. While she's coming up, I'll just tell you, Brittany actually has chosen to participate in performing arts at Anderson High School. So you would see her participating in choir, show choir, different types of performing arts, but she also excels in leadership and is known throughout the high school as just being a very caring and a fabulous young lady. And so I'm so thrilled. I know Brittany was quite nervous about coming and getting a standing ovation this evening, but again, we're honored to have you at Anderson High School and look forward to having you be a Raven next year. Again, Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Again, congratulations, you guys. Great work. We certainly look forward to your futures as you continue to grow. This time, it's my distinct privilege to have the opportunity to introduce to you our keynote speaker. This young lady I'm going to introduce to you, and you're going to meet here in a few moments, if you don't already know her, is no stranger to our community, or certainly to the state. She was born in Lafayette. She is a graduate of the Jefferson High School. Now, those of us who are Anderson Indians, we're not going to hold that against you. After high school, she went on to Ball State University, where she earned her bachelor's degree. She later earned her master's degree, both in education. She later went to Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis, where she earned a second master's degree in library science. She has taught for over 33 years in the public school system. During that period of time, she earned the honor of being recognized twice by two different schools as being Teacher of the Year. She has served on a number of boards involved with education, including the Indiana Federation of Teachers, as well as her local boards within her own community through the years. She is married to Gary Ritz, who happens to be a former resident of Pendleton, Indiana, which makes her one of our own. Presently, she and her husband reside in Carmel. She has two adult children. We were speaking of the two children earlier today. They are both on two different coasts, and Glenda is the proud grandparent of several grandchildren that she can tell you about. I can tell you that Glenda, who was elected in 2012 and began serving in 2013 as the superintendent of Indiana Public Instruction, was the first Democrat in 40 years to hold the position. Glenda, like so many other teachers involved in education, and like so many of the teachers involved in education in our community, has a deep, solid passion for education for children. It's not just a job, it is a passion that she feels and feels it every day within her heart, which is what makes her so exciting. It's a privilege this evening to be able to introduce to you the Superintendent of Indiana Public Instruction, Glenda Ritz. Glenda?
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is my honor to be invited to such a great event to honor education, actually. And everyone here in attendance is in support of what we do with our children. And I want to tell you a little bit about how comfortable I feel in my job. So as a teacher of 34 years, I always made it my business to be at the highest level committees, whether it was at the school or the school district. And I'm a national board certified teacher. So, and I served on that board of directors at a national level for 7 years. And then my Teachers Association gave me quite a bit of training, but I've spent my whole life in education policy. Always have lobbied at the State House. I've always been involved in talking to my representatives and my senators. And then I testified frequently in front of the State Board of Education when education policy was affecting what we do in the classroom. So quite literally, when politics began to infiltrate our classrooms to the point where we were giving an I Read 3 test, very high stakes to our little third graders about reading. And no matter your view about the test, a test never taught a child to read, ever. So I had a little one come to my little third grader, come to my classroom. It was in April of 2012. I remember it vividly. And she said, "Mrs. Ritz, I don't need to check out a book today from the library because I just did well on my I Read test." And I said to myself, what have we done to the children? Where they think that the act of reading is for the sake of doing well on a test. Because reading has to be a lifelong event in everybody's lives to make sure that you can always be that learner. I called that day and said, how do I sign up to do the superintendent's job for the state of Indiana? I know how things work at the State House. I know how laws get changed and moved and worked on. I know how the State Board of Education works. Where do I sign up? The rest is history, and the politics of things is still there. But what I want to speak to you tonight is about the education agenda and where we're going and where we're headed and what we've been doing. So I'm excited that you're celebrating your own community's efforts for over 7,000, about 7,000 students in the Anderson Community Schools. There can't be anything better that you can do because it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids and them having opportunities when they leave our high schools to be productive citizens. That's what every single parent wants to have for their child. So supporting students at the state level, I came with my own philosophy. As a classroom teacher, I always have been about action. Whatever a child needed, I expected the school to assist me in getting it done. Literally. If a child needed food, where are we going to get this food for them? They're going home on the weekends with no food. And I would go down and talk with the principal. How are we going to make this happen? Kids need to have whatever services need to be wrapped around them so they can, whoops, whatever services they need to be wrapped around them to be the best learners in our classroom. So we have to make sure that that's what we're doing. And it's a community approach. So I applaud what you're doing here in Anderson Community. I travel 2 to 3 days a week around this state. We are at 22% poverty of our children. And I don't care where you go. It's everywhere. I see more and more schools with food pantries. We are feeding our children now with federal dollars, all federal dollars, breakfast, lunch, and in many of our schools, dinner in our after-school programs. It is real, it is there, and we have to be sure that our kids have the supports that they need. My department spends a lot of time and effort working with community aspects to be sure that kids are going to get what they need. My vision of state government is to assist with whatever needs there are at the local level. That's how I view it. I don't view state government to be some separate entity as it normally operates, and local government some separate entity. No, the state should be there to serve the local. How do we remove barriers for you to get things done? So at the Department of Education, I came with my own vision, as I was saying, and that's imagine the possibilities and make them happen. Whatever it takes to get it done for every kid. With that, we developed a mission statement to build an education system of equity and high quality focused on student-centered accountability. It is all about the kids. What do they need and how do we get it working? So I formed Outreach for School Improvement. We no longer service children from the State House. My outreach coordinators are hired within the regions in which they serve. They believe in your communities, they believe in their schools, and they want to get the resources that's needed to make it happen. And yes, sometimes, many times, we need the State House to back us up, and that's where conversation has to happen within the communities to be sure that our representatives and senators do what we are expecting them to do for our children in the state of Indiana. We've been expanding outreach each year that I've been there, and in the first year alone, 103 schools went from low performing to high performing. That's not by accident. That's by making sure that we actually have provided what's needed to make things happen. Outreach is now expanded to the point where I have district-level kinds of people in place in some of our areas in Indiana. We've expanded the number that we are having in terms of outreach coordinators, but my newest endeavor is to make sure that we're going to start breaking down the barriers between state government child services and what we do in the schools. We're beginning our work in Austin, Indiana. You might recall that was the HIV breakout. What happened at the state level, I call swooping in and swooping out. And that doesn't go well with me because I have kids that have needs there, and they have to be met. So when I go and talk with a school district and they have after-school programs in place, they have great summer work with their kids in place, but they have trouble breaking down the bureaucracy of getting the kids mental health, health services, child protection services. That's where I said, I'm gonna go meet with the heads of the agencies. I'm gonna hire a person, and their role is to break down the bureaucracy and the barriers. When parents can't get their kids to the mental health clinic, they may be working 2 jobs, they may have their own physical problems that they're working on, whatever the reason, when they don't make it there 2 times and then they get kicked out of the system for the mental health, and then it's 6 months before we can get them back in, that's not service. So we're going to be breaking those things down. I'll be expanding that statewide at some point. We absolutely have to get our services to the kids at the schools. Outreach is very important to what I do, because I don't need anybody's permission at that state house to serve kids. I simply don't. We need the state legislature to give me resources from time to time, but I can do the job of servicing kids and making sure that we have what you need at the local level, making sure that we're going to have state work coincide. I formed the Hoosier Family of Readers before I ever took office. Between my election in November and January when I took office in 2013, I formed 260 partnerships statewide to make sure that literacy was going to be on the radar again in our families. It is important that kids read, not just at school. It is not a school activity. It is a lifelong activity, and it must happen in our homes. It must happen when they're little and all the way through. So the Hoosier Family of Readers has been formed, and in the summers, we provided free of charge to every student in the state of Indiana online reading books, about 5,000 titles, all different kinds of levels. This year, in honor of this bicentennial, we were able to secure that contract for all year. So the schools have been using it, the families have been using it, and we set a goal of reading 200,000 books. I was so excited because that surpassed in 1 month. Wow. We are now on our way to 1 million. And actually, I think we'll make the 2 million mark to celebrate the bicentennial by December. So I'm pretty excited about making that work. Testing. You heard me talk about why I got into this race. It is about testing. And since 2001, we have been teaching to test. And that is a disservice to our children, because learning is not about testing. Learning is about being a learner and learning how to be a learner, because you're going to have to do it your whole life, no matter what career or career changes you make. You are always going to need to have those kinds of skills. So I'm excited that yes, we're going to end the I-STEP as we know it in 2017. And those, I'm looking around at some faces, and those who just received scholarships, you've endured all of this testing throughout your school life, but we need to get about the real purpose of what assessment is about. So we're going to be having a committee of 23 people that was decreed by statute. The politics may get involved. The governor is appointing the chair, and I don't mind saying I wrote him a letter. I wrote him a letter. I wrote the heads of the actual Senate and the House a letter. I wrote the heads of the education committees a letter, and I said to them, and I've never written them a formal letter. I will tell you, by the way, I sometimes get formal letters from them about issues, and I quickly respond. I didn't get one response regarding my letter, not one. It was very disrespectful, in fact, but I asked in that letter to be the co-chair of this committee. It's the most important thing we're going to talk about. It affects every student in our schools, every educator in our schools, and every family in our communities. It's that important. I'm going to be talking pretty loud and pretty clear about how I feel about assessments. In our schools, many of us give what we call formative assessments, and I just want you to know that term, formative. It really means that when a child walks in 5th grade, I know what their reading level is. I know that I have 8th grade readers in my 5th grade class, 5th grade readers in my 5th grade class, 3rd grade readers in my 5th grade class, and now I have a sense of what I need to do as a teacher and where I need to take all the kids. It tells me where kids do perform. Our pass-fail test on ISTEP does not do that for anybody that thinks that it does. It just tells us that kids passed or failed on grade level assessments. And as a result, we've been teaching to grade level standards too much. Our kids are all different levels as they come into our classroom, and they all deserve to be taught and go as far as they possibly can for their individual needs. And that's what it's all about. So I hope to have a streamlined assessment, an individualized assessment for every single child, knowing where they do perform, how they grow over time, and then let's get about the business of doing what we need to do. And for the first time in a long time, we might actually assess reading. It's a very sad state of affairs at the state level. Superintendent cannot tell you the reading levels of any student in the state. The most important factor that determines success in your academic careers. You have to know the reading levels of your students. So I'm looking forward to a new assessment system that will not be cumbersome for educators nor for students. It'll give us quick information about how they're doing. We'll know they're on track to be college and career ready. That's what we have to know. But we'll also be able to address the literacy problem that we have in our state. And when you've got 22% poverty, folks, the books are not in the homes. They're not there. Kids come to us all the time, not being ready to read, nor even have the vocabulary to begin the reading, even at kindergarten. So going forward, I'll be talking a lot about pre-K. I don't need anybody's permission to get started on that, and we are. We will talk about funding later in some aspects, but we have a lot of federal funds we can use for pre-K. And the very saddest day of my tenure was when the governor turned down the $80 million of pre-K funding that the state of Indiana could have had to actually advance our pre-K programs. We just have to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. Blue Ribbon Commission. The teacher shortage is real. And whatever you feel is the cause of it, it's here. And we have to be sure that we're going to address it systematically. I formed a Blue Ribbon Commission of 49 people. Most of them were educators from the pre-K to the higher education, looking at the profession as a whole. We identified 8 areas, and I would urge you to go to the Department of Education and actually download that report. It's about this thick. Very succinct. I believe in having things very succinct about what it is we're doing and where it is we're going and what we have to get done. I put that through the General Assembly. It died. What I got instead was political showboating. And you all need to know what that is. That means the legislature passed one scholarship that will affect 200 people going into the field of education. I need 60,000 educators every year in our classrooms. 60,000. We need to address the entire system, whether it's recruiting a diverse workforce, whether it's preparing our teachers, whether it's the pre-service kind of induction where we're actually giving mentoring to our beginning teachers, and educators really seeing they actually have a career. It's a profession. We have to make sure that people are wanting to come in and work with our children. It's vital to making sure that they're prepared for what they need to go to do. And that brings me to the college and career pathways. So pre-K at one end, and making sure our high schoolers have a sense of what they might want to go and do. That means connecting with the Ivy Techs and the colleges around. That means actually have a conversation with what is the employment opportunities for our kids in your region and in your areas. What you've begun here is exactly what you need to be doing. Having that dialogue, what are the skills we need? How can we adjust curriculum? How can we partner? How can we get CTE funding more and more within our school systems? Kids have to have that sense of relevance. So I'm the only one that graduated from my family from college. The only one. I took one course in Lafayette Jefferson High School that changed my whole life, cadet teaching. I spent a couple hours a week in an elementary school, and I said, how do I do this? I had no money to go to college, none. I had just a few scholarships, and I took advantage of special education loan forgiveness at the federal level, which we still have. I had a double major. I worked 3 jobs every summer to put myself through. It never occurred to me that money should be an obstacle to me. But the point is, kids need relevance to what they want to go do in life. They need to explore in the high school years. They need to be able to take AP classes if they want to, but also take that biomed class that we can offer them. Because they might say, hey, that's what I want to do. How do I make that happen? So we absolutely have to see the connections. Funding. I'm going to end on kind of the note of funding. In the state of Indiana, we decided a few years back that we would have every dollar follow the child. It was a bad idea. It is a bad idea. Because when kids move out, wherever they're going, the school systems have to then cut funds in their own system. They have to cut programs. So when I travel around the state of Indiana, I see more inequity in programs. And quite frankly, I don't care the zip code of where a child grows up. They are entitled to programming. They're entitled to have technology as they should to be learning in today's society. They are entitled to have a balanced curriculum within their schools. They're absolutely entitled to it. Our funding mechanism needs to make sure that is given to all schools before we have some of the money follow the child. We have to make sure that we're going to be vocal about that in doing what it is we need to do. And that brings me to really the last part about labeling our schools. When I was elected, it was known I did not believe we should be headed on a track to label our schools A, B, C, D, and F. We're not mandated by anybody to do that at the federal level. What we're supposed to be doing is placing schools in school improvement categories. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But the state of Indiana has decided we need to rate our schools. And of course, the rating system has been based mostly on one test. And then they get these grades. But I will tell you, it's nothing about the quality of the schools. You want to know about the qualities of the schools? Visit the school. Walk in the school and see the quality of what's there. Because it's about the kids. I was invited to speak at a commencement ceremony of an F high school. And the valedictorian, her entitled speech was, "You don't know us, we're not F." And proceeded to talk about all the great things that her fellow students do. And it really is about that. A 3.7 grade average from an F school will never be treated the same as a 3.7 from an A school. And I firmly believe that students should be leaving on their own merit, their own worth, and their own grades. We owe it to them to graduate and have opportunities. It's about equity, it's about high quality, it is about being focused on students. Please know that I'm working alongside DWD, which is the Workforce Development, the Higher Learning Commission, and the university systems, because we have to be aligned in what we're offering to our children. Continue to support your schools, and you're off to a great start to empower education. Thank you so much for inviting me here this evening.
Thank you, Glenda. Passion, right? Passion. I do a great job. Thank you so very much. I'd like at this time also to take the opportunity to have another individual come up and speak to us here just briefly. Again, I appreciate so much what Community Hospital has done. Again, they are so deeply committed to our community, and they've helped us so much here this evening. Beth, would you feel free to come up here if you would, and please speak to us. Ladies and gentlemen, Beth Tharp.
I promise I'll be short, because I know we're getting late into the evening. But I do want to say, Mayor Broderick, on behalf of Community Hospital, we want to thank you, your administration, for putting on this wonderful event to benefit the students of our community. We're delighted to be one of the major sponsors of the event. I have to thank again, I know you mentioned her, but Michelle Hawkwa, who works in our Community Relations Department. She did an awful lot of the work that you'll see here. Many of you may not know this. I know some probably will. I know Tom Snyder would know this. But when Community Hospital was opened in 1962, we were open debt-free. There were 17,000 people in this community and the local businesses and corporations that got together and raised the funds to open our hospital. And I would imagine that those folks that did that would not have ever envisioned that 54 years later, we would be one of the major employers in this community. And so with that, we have a huge, huge responsibility to this place that we call home. And so it's, you know, the mission of our hospital is enhancing the well-being and the health of our community. And that goes way beyond the walls of the hospital and what we do to the patients that we take care of. It is the community that we serve. I was going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you see up on the up on our banners, but I'm not going to do that for the sake of time tonight. I do want to highlight one thing that you're going to be hearing about in the future, and that's the community bike program that Tom Bannon and our foundation are getting ready to start. We have purchased some very nice bicycles that are going to be located in areas around the community that are going to help with transportation for those in our community that struggle with getting to work and to getting to health care. So you'll be hearing more about that in the future. I also do want to say that I am very proud that each one of the leaders in our hospital every year give back to this community through their time, their talent, and their involvement through what we call Serve 360. And so we just want you to know that we truly are your hospital. We were made, developed, created by this community, and we've never forgotten that. So again, thank you so much. Can't think of a better thing that we can do than to support you and your efforts to support our schools. Thank you.
Thank you again, Beth. They do a great job, and I got to tell you a little side note story. I told Beth this one day, but my mother actually was a young nurse back in the time when Community Hospital was getting off the ground. She had went to a nurses training at St. John's back in the day when they had a nurses school there. But she was in private practice at the time with a surgeon, and they were working on raising money for the hospital. And she got drawn into a program called Project Plus, which helped raise money. And she ended up being sort of like the model, if you will, and a spokesperson that would go around the radio and all that. We've still got a little cardboard cutout of her that they had in one of the department store windows downtown Anderson. So they said, "You got to bring us that. We want to see all that stuff." So anyway, that was neat. So I have a strong feeling for community because of that, for that reason alone, for sure. her. So again, thank you so much for what you guys do. At this time, what I'd like to do is give our presentation. Again, remember what we're going to be doing is we're going to be asking the schools to present to us their ideas of what they would like to use this money for, and then we're going to put it out in sections, if you will. We're hoping to do about 15 or so of them, but we're going to be sort of open to suggestions as that comes down the pike. But what I'd like to do at this time is ask Randy Harrison and Terry Thompson to come up and present jointly this check to you folks on behalf of the teachers and behalf of the administration. This check hasn't been, oh, there it is, it has been filled in. This is our estimate. We actually think we're going to go a little higher than this evening, but we wanted to be realistic about it. But $15,000, folks. So, and again, that's for our kids in our systems. And these guys work hard. Obviously, they have their interests that they have to do. They have to do their jobs. But they both have one thing in common, and that is the kids. They care about the kids, and that's really what matters most. If you can negotiate that, you're welcome to. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Terry Thompson.
I wanted to steal the mic just for a minute because I wanted you to know how passionate we are about Anderson and to let you know some of the great things going on. So real quickly, did you know that the last 2 years that we've graduated 90% of our seniors? No. And our awesome new principal, Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, stand up. Eric Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, we have such quality educators. There's so many in this room, and they're the reason why we're graduating 90% of the people. But it's because of the quality of people we put in front of our kids. And then, last but not least, last night, well, first of all, we have not won the North Central Conference in track and field since 1983. And last night, we swept it. So, now, trust me, I'm not talking about athletics. I could talk about a lot of things. There's a plethora of things going on. Did you know that we were state runners-up in the brain game team? Yes, yes. Okay, so let me tell you, you can be very proud of what's going on in Anderson, and we're very proud to be a part of that. We're a small part of it. It is your schools. And so please keep telling people all the great things that are going on. Discipline has gone down, expulsions 75 to 3. And our kids, we'll put them up against anybody. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Randy Harrison. I am president of the Anderson Federation of Teachers. And I do thank all the sponsors, the mayor's office, Ivy Tech. But there's a special group of people that I brought with me tonight, and they're my colleagues. If you're a teacher here tonight with the Anderson Federations, please rise. That is just a small chunk of our membership and all the professionals that we have. And when we caught wind of the mayor's ball, we ran it through our executive board. It's their dues money that we put forth to be a sponsor, part of this, because it's going back to our colleagues. It's a worthwhile cause. And I was going to talk about the brain game as well. I have several of those students in our AP setting. And also, just recently, Glenda Ritz came to Valley Grove, which is a nationally recognized Title I school. And if you, like Glenda said, come visit any school in Anderson Community Schools, and you'll find that they are top shelf. Thank you. God bless. Good night.